cottage style.
I'm going simple right here, right? So just slowly we're going to
I guess we should get new windows in the house.
Right, so this is the window that's half open, so the bird can go in here. This is halfway open, and this is open all the way to the top. No. This is your canvas, right? And what I have basically here is the 1/3, 2/3. I have the half and half, and then I have the 1/3, 2/3 composition. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? All right, so if this was a table, basically we have a tabletop over here, all right? And then we will have a vase over here, and then we have which one's the more interesting one?
This one.
Hmm?
This one.
A, B, let's see. What's the difference?
Perspective, where you're viewing it from.
Okay. Well, they're all kind of like head on, right?
In the first one, you have the flower, the main flower, and
Vertically, where you're looking at vertically.
Right. So basically, look at the amount of space that it takes, right? Up on the page. What's going on over here?
Pouring negative space and even
Right.
horizon line.
Because I've broken the horizon line into half, right? The amount of space that this occupies, you see this, is equal to this amount of space that is occupied over here. So this makes for a very flat, uninteresting, boring composition. There's no real dynamic happening in there. You see that? How it's very static. It's almost like you literally tore the page in half, and then you tore the actual subject in half, and you put an equal amount here and an equal amount here. Okay? How about this one over here?
I think that one could work if you had the main flower on the 1/3 across.
Right. So this one, this has potential, right?
Yes,
Okay. This one for me is a big X. This is number 1. This will be number 2, but it requires work,
right.
right? But you would have to come in there and restructure a few things to make it work. But what's interesting between this and this is that the 1/3 display is evident compared to the 2/3. There is a deliberate break of 1/3, 2/3. Okay. Here, there's a deliberate break of half. Okay. And then here, there's a deliberate break of 1/3, 2/3. Although the composition is somewhat disturbing, kind of, but there are elements that you can bring in.
Like what?
Well, for example, is this going to be part of your background? This is going to be a simple color. Okay. You can use that color. You can have one of the flowers to make it larger. Bring in a leaf over here. Bring in another leaf. Possibly another flower here. Right? And then another extension going this way. Right? Now it makes it a little more interesting, and you can always put a bit of a shadow if you want on a platform. You can also just leave it lying loose. It's just basically branches suspended in the air, and you have a beautiful bouquet. But the more important part is that the 1/3 part, the one that's heavier, is leaning on the top, and the one that's less is in the 2/3. All right? Here we have it broken down so that most of the 2/3 has the flower or the vase, and the least amount of information is in the 1/3 area. Okay? So what I'm trying to get to is that this kind of configuration, 1/3, 2/3, is a lot more interesting than the breaking it into half. The other part it also does is it splits it right down the middle. So we have everything is of equal space. Like this over here is equal to this over here. This over here is almost equal to this over here. Makes it very boring.
Interesting if people that are really precise and orderly and control freaks, if they would be drawn more to something like that in the middle, because it's like their compartmentalized brain.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be a stretch for some people to have to be able to do this. That's what I'm saying. Let's keep it simple for the next.
Oh, I mean, for even someone to buy work, artwork, if they would be drawn more to.
Well,
Their
the
brain style.
thing is that this type of work will sit on your wall for a long time before it sells, because there isn't a relationship to the human. Your human structure is based on this. The actual design of your body is based on this, not on this. We're not symmetrical. We are 1/3, 2/3. Everything about us is 1/3, 2/3. So the case in point is that if you've seen Da Vinci's man and
Yeah.
like this, okay? What he did there is he basically broke down the fact that there is a ratio over here and it begins with the hand. You can take your hand and put it here, and this is the one, actually the 1.6 to the 1. If you take half, it goes here. You take my whole hand, it goes right here. So you're able to use the unit of measurements of your hand to be able to break down the entire composition of the body. So everything that you have within your body is already configured to be able to meet its points. And everything is 1 to 1.6. It's also called the golden means ratio. All right? Look that up. That's going to be part of your homework. And you're going to look at that. When I fold my hand in half, all right, from here to here, all right, there's a symmetry that starts to happen. All right? When I fold my fingers in half, all right, this is the 1.6, the 1 to the 1.6, meaning it takes one of these and another and a 0.6 to make my finger. It takes one of these and another to make my palm. This is the 1.6. And then you start breaking this down into here. Here's the 1.6, and then half of that is the 1. And this goes on throughout the entirety of your body. Your face is also broken down that way. The length of my hand over here is the base of my forehead and my chin. All right? So sometimes you want to check proportions on your model. It's a canon of proportions. You can look at that. You can actually look at the model's hand, and then you look at the face. And if you're able to measure the model's hand, this is where drawing comes in really handy. You can put it up against the model's face. You'll see if you're within the right proportions. My body is broken down that way. This is the 1/3, this is the 2/3. So what I'm saying is that you are built with that structure. This is already resonating in you. So your relationship to art and to the structure of the composition should already have this integrated. You see that? Otherwise, you don't have a reference point. So I removed the reference points. I removed the vase, I removed the platform, I removed the flowers, and then into abstract painting. I have no reference point whatsoever because in order to do abstract, I have to internalize everything and bring it forward. The only way that you'll be able to communicate with your viewer is based on the composition. How are you going to hold the viewer there? Because if your composition is not strong and you're not integrating the 1/3 to 2/3, they're going to fly right off the page. They're not going to see it. Make sense? Yeah? It's another little eureka moment. Let it sink in. David, is this how you, when they do the portraits, how is the structure set up for them so that?
Well, with the workshops, because there's a lot of beginners, what I do is everything's just vignetted, so really it's just the first composition.
You go with that. Okay. So in looking at the structure of this painting, okay, and now this is where when you're gonna start going to the museum, you're gonna start looking for this. We tend to read from left to right, right? This is how we do it. And then our eye goes down this way, and then the eye goes down this way, and then it goes across, and then across, and then across, and then across. Somehow you have to be able to set the structure up so that you have elements within here that carry you across into the painting. And this is how the bigger format.
What about Eastern people though? They read from top to bottom. Do they
That's
think
right.
that way too?
They read in terms of, yeah, and if you look at Japanese and Chinese art, they don't just give you one image with the entire information in there. You travel. So you're going to travel this way, and then you'll travel this way. And then but they don't tell you the entire story within the parameters of 4 walls. You start here, you end up here, then you're here, then you're here, then you're here, and you're actually taking a journey. Yeah, it's a different language. This is why we never adopted it in Western culture. We come in the 4 walls, or rotunda, and we work within there. They don't. They come in the panels, and those panels will take you from top to bottom, but then they'll also cross over to this side, maybe go from bottom to top. But normally it's like open space, and then a lot of stuff starts to happen here. But the culmination of all of those put together tells you the entire story. You've seen some of those, like some of these Japanese sort of like imprints, where you have like the samurai, and then you have the horses, and they're telling the battle of the village, and then you see the village here, and then you see the main characters here. So that's how you read it. You kind of go this way, and it ends here. So we don't follow the same configuration. So I'm going to start with We have a tabletop setting, and we have a split down the center. And one of the things I try and do normally is it's in a vase, I will put the vase on this side, a little bit off center, right? Because as you saw there, if it's in the center, it tends to be, well, I'd say, not as interesting. I then start to actually pick my flowers, and I start to put them inside the vase. There's always foliage involved. This is foliage. It's transparent. Does that look interesting?
It just goes like this. And it's even on all the sides.
I'm even on all the sides. This distance over here is less than this distance over here. It's less over here. You see that? It's not even. So what I'm doing over here purposely, and actually I'll put a bigger flower over here, right?
Okay. That's what I meant.
Right.
The space on the top on the
Right.
side.
So that's a good catch. That's exactly what you have to look at, and how you have to. This is how you basically compose your image, so you can fix the composition. So I'm bringing you in this way, because this flower right here is coming to get you. You're coming in this way, right here. And your eye, because of this long stem, is going to drop over here. And I'm going to pick you up over here with a flower that I'll place. It's going to curve you this way. The leaf will drop you over here. The vase will pick up your eye again. This little twig, or whatever it is that's here, that's hanging here, is going to pick you up again over here. I'm bringing you back up here. This curve is bringing you back up here. I'm going to extend this a little bit more, put another flower here. Maybe even go this way, and you're back here again.
So I have a
So
question.
you're not escaping the painting. You're not leaving this painting.
So you don't care, like, so your big flower there is not 1.6 or in the third, and that would be your focal. So I have a question on that.
Everything is in the 2/3. Your 2/3 is here.
Okay, so it doesn't
1/3.
matter
It doesn't
where-
matter, no.
Okay.
It's just like where you're putting the most of the weight. So a lot of the weight is going to be here, but within that weight, you have to be able to direct me, okay, into the painting. These are your supporting characters. All the small flowers around the big kahuna, which is here, okay. These guys are lending structure to this one over here. But more importantly, the most important part is that as you direct me across and across and across and up and around and over, you can't even leave the structure.
So as long as the weight of the piece is on that 2/3, you don't have to worry about that compositional 1.6, or I want that flower right there in the thing.
The 1.6 to 1, this is it. It's also called 1/3 to 2/3.
Oh, it is, okay. Because I've seen you do paintings like that. With
Yeah,
the
I do it
flower
purposely.
exactly where that
I do them
is.
as exercises. I do it purposely as studies for myself to check
Okay.
in with myself and say, okay, do I have this right? Because it's always, just making sure this is what I do. And so I'm giving it to you now like this as a basic platform, and it does make a lot of sense because like the Rothko paintings, he has his broken down into 1/3, 2/3, okay? And sometimes if he comes in with a line in the center, there's going to be a distribution over here of a different type of light. We're not there, but I can just understand that this was a large part of his composition. The most important part, and I stress this, is that you have to be able to take me by the nose and say, this way stupid, this way stupid, this way stupid, this way stupid. Then you bring me in, and then you continue the this way stupid till you make my eye and my focal land in there.
And you don't care that the biggest flower is dead eye, bullseye in the middle?
It's not.
It's,
It's off,
that was my
it's off to the
question.
left. Well, maybe over here the way I did it, but, no, this has to go off.
Okay.
It has to go off.
And can you ever, like, break the plane and go off the picture with a branch or a,
Right,
you know,
so-
touching the side?
So here we go, we break the plane
Okay,
and we put a branch here, okay?
so you're going off a little bit.
It's not going off. This way, 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 boom, off the page. Right off.
But you could still put something there, but if
And that's
it
exactly,
fades
and
in.
then you put something in, because you have to realize it, you have to be aware that this is what I'm doing. It's, oh, I just got you off, so that's like watching a movie, and then suddenly you introduce some storyline that's like, wait, that's kind of awkward. How's this all gonna tie in, right? Why this why do we suddenly have this going on? How's it all gonna tie in? To your point, you reintroduce something that's gonna bring it back in again.
Right back in.
Yeah, so this is all you're ever playing with. That's it. Very simple for now. It can get more complicated as your pieces get bigger and you remove the vase and then you're just dealing with the flowers. Now the flowers are suspended in midair. That's a whole different configuration. We'll talk about that. But I want to make sure that you understand this over here. Yeah? How does this apply to your portrait work? Or have you? Next time you do your portrait, how are you gonna do that?
Well, to keep them in, I use the background,
Mhm.
obviously, but I actually am embarrassed to say that I take my ruler and my calculator and do 1.6 across and stuff.
Whatever
to
works.
look.
Whatever works.
I just want to know how
Right.
close I am.
Right.
But you know that the human eye instinctually really does put it almost dead on.
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
Maybe
You don't
because I'm
think-
trained differently with it.
If you take your canvas and you go like this and like this, you like know where you want that part. But you're not doing it. I understand
Yeah, I
that
have
you
to
just
go
taught me
back.
something
I have to go
that I
back to
didn't
that.
understand, and that's the weight. That's why I asked that question. That it's okay if it's not there. It's the weight that's important in that.
Yeah, the weight.
2/3, 1/3.
The weight will also, think of it this way, okay? When your viewer is standing in front of you, you're literally taking your 2 fingers, you're putting it under their nose, and you're going, come here, come this way, come this way, come this way, come this way, this way. Okay, I'm done. Right? That's exactly what you're doing. I'm looking at that painting right there, the portrait. I'm not sure who did that, but that's a, David? That's a pure example of what I'm talking about. You're not leaving that portrait. Why? Take a look at that. Everything that I just said is already embedded in there. He's got everything broken into 2/3. The top part occupies the 2/3. The bottom part occupies 1/3. Her arm on the right is the 1/3. Everything else on the left is 2/3. So he split it into 2 areas, 2/3, 1/3. Right? The gaze is looking at us, which obviously connects us immediately to the viewer. So you're not, first of all, she's looking at you. If she was looking elsewhere, the gaze would slowly take you off the painting and then you have to bring it back. Well, what brings you back and keeps you connected in there, and I'll show you, I mean, if everybody turns around. She's looking at us over here, so we immediately make that connection, right? We're coming in this way. Do you see how you see this angle right here? You see her head? See this angle? It's connecting me to here. See this? It's bringing me back up here. The strokes that you put here bring me back here, and I'm back here again, and I'm back here again. If suddenly I take this over here, I can't even leave this canvas because her head is bringing me back this way, and then back in again. Suddenly, if I decide to leave this, okay, I can't, because once I get here, if this is too quick of a drop, her angle of the head is taking me around here. You see how I'm back into it again? Here's your 1/3, 2/3. 1/3, see this? 2/3. I needed an example, so there we are. So you see how it works? So you don't even realize that it's happening. That's the thing, you just don't realize it. You're like, oh, I get it now.
And so, and for some people, that stuff is innate. You have it, you don't question it. You can overlay things, and it's always gonna work that way. Other people can be taught to understand this, and so don't worry if you don't get it right now. You'll learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So how do you not overanalyze it? Like how do you stay in the heart and let the head?
You'll feel it,
Yes,
because
sure.
there's a part of it that, some of the thoughts that come up are like, I feel there's an imbalance. Like I feel feel, you recognize what you're telling yourself. I feel there's an imbalance. So your head will say, it doesn't matter, just push through anyway. It's so good. But when you feel that there's an imbalance, you have to stop.
Yeah.
You have to stop.
One thing that I struggle with is going back and forth between the flow state and this.
Between the what?
The flow state
The
and,
flow state?
and this.
Yeah.
And getting into this in one go. So sometimes I feel pressure to create something with a composition in one go and kind of finalize and decide. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
like,
no, it's
early
not hard.
days
It's
of
not-
like trying, how do you transition between the right brain and the left brain in this process?
First of all, it's not a one goal. Yeah, if you're doing
You
this,
need to hear that too.
yeah, no, it's not. That's remove that, and you've got to figure it out. It's layers and layers and layers. As many times when I'll be working on my painting, the first goal is the impetus to put something. Remember, I don't draw anything. I just look at references the way you have them, or I'll have a fresh bouquet and I'll look at that and I'll put it down based on my knowledge of this. Is it perfect? No. However, it's already giving me and I look for that and say, how am I structured here? Okay, I'm structured pretty well. The next step is to come in and start placing. Now I'm the director. Now I'm like, okay, crew, let's go. Let's bring in the characters.
For me, it always almost feels like it has to happen on a different day. So I can like stay in that part state as long as I possibly can and get as much done as I can and then later I'll come back and
That's your process for now. Eventually you'll let go.
what I've done.
Yeah. Like respect the stages at which you're at too. You see, like, but if it's a struggle, if anything is a struggle, anything that comes up in your painting, you need to question why you're holding resistance to that. Like, because there's a psychology behind it that's keeping you there. That's all it is. It's because nobody told you, like who came up to you and said you have to do it all in one go?
I don't know.
Like somewhere along the line.
Instagram.
Instagram. Instagram is like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Too much social media.
So there's that. You see, there's that part of it also that messes with your head, and then you're like, I need to do it like this. No, you need to do it the way you want to do it. But this is the heady part. That is, as long as you have that structure in there, it doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, a lot of times these paintings for me are just like swatches of color. You end up looking at bouquets anyway. It doesn't have to be super tight. It doesn't have to look like a flower. If I take red paint and yellow paint and green and I throw it on the canvas, your mind is immediately going to say, "Oh, that's a bouquet." I never painted a bouquet. Oh, that's a bouquet. Your mind takes care of more than half of what needs to be done. Because it's just thought, it's a theory. It's like it's actually the way you think. You'll see certain elements and you're going to put it together and you're going to give it a form. You're going to say, this is the form. This is what it looks like, and I'm sticking to it. And then you're going to find yourself starting to tweak it and make it look like a flower. But the area, sometimes the impetus of the child is to just grab paint and there's my bouquet and walk away. Are you able to stay with that? Yeah.
Do you paint from life or photos
Sometimes,
or photos?
sometimes.
But it's okay with,
I work from photos a lot and references because my mind, over the years I've noticed that if I'm not careful, it goes right into detail, and that's not where I want to be. See, it's the mind thing. So I said no, and so sometimes it's a bit of like, but now I've got it. That's I figured out. But interestingly enough, recently in the last year since my I've had 3 surgeries over the last couple of years, and I haven't been able to move very much, and I had to work small. And what happened is the physical part of my movement was not part of my painting, so the mind took over. Mm-hmm. And so I remained in a very creative state, and I did whatever movement I could, and I started working small. And I noticed that that part will tend to, for me, will tend to come in and really get into a little fidgetiness. And then when, of course, now I pulled away from that and retranslating these pieces into bigger pieces. So I could see that working in me. So to answer your question, it's like you do what basically is best for you at that moment. You have to be true to your work all the time. Not try and fit into a category that somebody told you about. Like you're learning something here, but then use it for yourself, like retranslate it. That's it. Just do it the way that you can. And it starts to lead you into this. Any questions on this? Should I do another one?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So that first go, is that just like capturing the essence of what you feel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then not changing it.
Keeping.
Yeah.
oh,
I was gonna say, sometimes that first underpainting part is what I, and I'll photograph along the way or whatever, and that first part, it's like, how did I lose that?
Do you remember
How
my
can I
show?
keep that?
Remember my show was in 2019 when we did the exhibition over here with all the flowers that I had done? Okay.
Yeah.
Those are all my first runs.
Wow.
Those are all my first runs. I never touched them after that. So what I was doing in the studio literally was, and part of it was we were going through COVID, and the question, I always ask myself these questions that are kind of existential. I said, if I were to strip everything away, of everything that I know about art, and I were to remove the color, and I were to remove all the structure that I've accumulated over the years, what would my paintings look like? And I said to myself, I always like that moment where you're starting the painting and then it looks so damn good, and you're like, why should I not leave it like this? So I did. I left it that way. And part of my brain was saying, push it, come on, just a little more. And that was, I'm like, no. My heart told me to stay here, I'm staying here. Next, get another piece. Again, next, get another piece. So it became even better than when you started to see that. You're like, oh yeah, all right, this is as valid as the finished piece, what you would call finished. This is finished, it's finished. It's like your child came out and said, I'm done.
Right.
And then the brain said, no, you're not done. And then the brain comes in and messes it up, you see? So I just had that recently with one of my students in Bonita in Naples. I did a workshop, and she came in with these big canvases, and I've been working with her for like 5 years, and I've said, like, you have to, please, you need to stop. Like I'm gonna jump in at a certain point, I'm gonna stop you. Like I'm physically gonna stop you from painting. And because she would always extend it. She would go, the painting was done. I'd be across the room and I'd say like, Jianying, stop. She'd go, what? I'm like, just stop, put your brushes down, I would yell at her from across the room, like, put your brushes down. And then she'd put them down and it was stronger than her. She would pick up those brushes and I wouldn't see her. And she goes, what do you think? I'm like, we need to do another one.
You went too far.
I went too far. And so finally she adhered to that. She says, okay, I'm really going to stop and to say. And it's not because I said it. It's because I recognized that that was the pivotal moment when the brain would come in again. And she stopped. She walked away with some of the best work she's ever done. And that's because she trusted her inner guidance of her heart. And it's a process, okay? So it's a process. Don't think it comes overnight. But I saw the struggle in her. But when she left, and the entire class was just like, oh my God, like, who painted this? It was part of her development as a person, that part of her personality that she was being Korean. She had this incredible structure around her of classicism and what it needs to look like to be accepted. And the truth of what she is was never expressed. I mean, that's pretty profound. And the truth of what she is was never expressed. I'm like, well, when the hell are you going to do it? Because I mean, the clock is ticking. So let's see what comes out of it, right? So I had another student in Italy at the workshop. This was also interesting. I'll relate this story because this is going to happen here. She came with her father and her mom, and her father was also a painter, but he was doing very tight academic style work, self-taught, very, very good painter also. And she was kind of following in his footsteps, and she wanted this to be breakthrough. And so, normally my classes just set up so I have like mountains of flowers in front of you, so you feed off the energy of that. And she kept looking at that, and she was painting, but she was painting in the traditional way that she kind of was taught through her father. And at a certain point, I came around and I looked at her canvas because I let everybody do their first round. I need to see where you're at. I start to understand your thinking. I'm looking at the canvas, I'm like, Susan, what's this? Like right at the corner of her canvas right here, okay? So think of the psychology here. It was right here. And she goes, oh, that's just, I just put it there like that. And she goes, what do you think of this? And I'm like, what do you think of that? And she goes, oh, it's just something that I did. I said, yeah? I go, the next 3 pieces, I go, you're going to start from there. And this is your starting point. She went like this. Like, what? I'm like, this is your starting point. I go, because this is the truth of what you are. You're just hiding it in the corner. And you don't want anybody to see it. But you made the big mistake of showing me. And I go, so now the rest of your painting's going to be like this. So, to her credit, she just looked at me and she said, okay. I was like, I trust you, you know, I trust you. I said, yeah, just trust me on this. She pumped out like, I think we were there for like 5 days and she pumped out like 8 paintings, something like that. The childlike performance that came out of those works, like what I saw, everybody was just like where did this come from? Her too. She was just like, oh my God. And so she took all of that, she went back to Canada with it, and now she's like seriously starting her art career, and we're online, we work online together. It's you know, I coach that. It's like I coaxed it out of her. Yet her father was still in the room. So for her, I could see how it could have been. Like, the father was also like, he was trying to break free, and he did. He did that thing where he took 2 or 3 steps out, and he got it. And then the last day, he went right back here again. It's okay. It's okay. This is, you went here, and you'll never get rid of this anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a question of time for you to like, get back in there. He just wasn't ready. Guys, also, I gave you something, and that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good that he actually mentioned that. Because some habits are hard to break, but once you taste it, you're kind of like, sorry, David, they're all screwed now.
About 6 or 7 years ago, Deb was working on a painting, I remember, it was representational. I photographed a portion of the painting that was mark making.
Right.
That had nothing to do with the representational aspect of the painting. And I sent it to her and she goes, oh my God, I love that. Who did that? Remember that?
Yeah. So my question to you is like, well, think about it for a second. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Who did that? What's that say about you? What's going on? Right?
It's there.
It's there, but you've decided I don't want anybody to see that. So much so that you don't even recognize it for yourself.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
interesting, yeah.
So what David did is like he brought it here and you went right away. Like tucked it this way. And guess what? You're with me now. Now we bring that up. And we play with that because that's where the growth is. You know, that's where the growth is. Like, you're learning some amazing skills. You're learning, from what he tells me, you've got color down pat. Like he's teaching you all about color. Fantastic. My color really sucks in the sense that I never mix anything here. I mix everything on the canvas. Oh wow, nuns. I haven't seen those in forever. Or a nun?
They just live a few blocks away.
No kidding. Wow. It's like being in Italy again. Awesome. So
Church bells will ring at noon.
they do. I love the sound of church bells. So we bring that forward, and you have an incredible amount of experience. You have an incredible amount of theory. You've been working with David. You're well trained. You know. All we need to do is just start embedding some of this information in there and loosening it up a little bit more. The loosening up, it's like you're gonna feel it. It's a resonance that's gonna be inside of you. You're gonna feel a lot of trepidation. You're literally gonna be almost afraid to have to put down that brushstroke because immediately your mind's gonna be like, people are gonna laugh at me. They're gonna think it's stupid. I can't take this home. I can't show it to anyone. I can't sell it. It looks like crap. That's the part of your mind that starts messing with you. And you have to quiet that down. You're gonna say something.
Oh, it's off this topic. But, how does that apply to square canvases? Is it the same?
It's not the same. So the square in itself, although it's a very strong structure, does not fit within the rectangle, but it already has the 1.6 to 1, or right? It doesn't have that integrated in it. So you have to break it down, and you have to figure that out for yourself. That makes sense. You have to create that. And just seeing that this already lines itself, this is already more of an effort. When I work the squares, I will usually, again, if this is the center line, I like to have, if it's going to be in the boss, I like to concentrate the boss on this side with just a little bit peeking through here. Okay? See that? The majority will be over here, and then I'll begin again. I'm coming this way. I'll put a nice big flower here, maybe even put a leaf here, and a leaf here. All right? And I'll put another one here. So this goes here. This curve will tie into here. Put a leaf here. Okay? So put another flower here. Remember, if this is the vase, make the flower overlap the vase, okay? And maybe I'll put some other little flowers going this way. Okay? And then we have some stuff going up this way, okay? And then I'll have a little flower here. And so what's happening here?
Still one page.
It's
What's
what?
kind of going on?
It's what? It's going off the page because of this.
Yeah.
See, so how do I bring it back?
Shadow? Bring a
Sometimes
drop
you can
flower?
have a shadow. Okay, let's say we put a shadow over here. But then I'm coming down this way, and the shadow takes me right off the page.
Yeah, can't you have a flower hanging down?
Right, so the whole point is you keep looking at that, and you keep fixing it, you keep fixing it, you keep fixing it. The more important part for me is not the solution that you find. It's that you need to be able to see that this is weak, that this is not strong. So if you can see that, then you're well on your way, because now your mind is saying, oh, if I add this structure and I add this structure, I can keep that EI back into the page, then I'm solid. But if you leave it like this and you say, hey, Carmelo, I did it, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, yeah, you're in, you're out. You're in, you're out. You need to correct that. So you have to be able to see this. That's the more important part. How many of you don't see it? You know how to fix it?
Fix it, Bonnie.
Let's go, Bonnie.
Come on, you can do it.
We believe in you, Bonnie.
No pressure.
Just follow your heart.
Well, let's see. I don't know.
No, you do know. See, I do know.
Something like that? Yeah.
What is that?
Great. It's the flower that's hanging.
Be determined.
you
Do it with intention. Remember, I don't know your movie, so like if you're not telling me, you have to tell me, hey, I'm putting this here, and this is the character, and this is what they're going to do in my big picture screen.
Well, these three are having a race to see who can get to the other side.
Watch your horizon line. Do you
They
cross
can't, they
it?
can't cross it.
He either crosses it, but don't make a rest on your horizon line.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
I don't know, maybe even a leaf fell.
Right.
Shaking,
Right. So
going
what
up
does
that way.
right? Okay. So much better, right?
Oh, not mine, probably.
Well, no, honestly. So here we go. So now we have that going, right? It needs to bring it in. You might even, if you decide to put a leaf this way, make sure you bring in another leaf here. It can be even abstract. And then it drops this way, comes this way. We have the shadow. And then these elements that Bonnie put in, there, we're back in. Simple, simple, simple fix. But
Except
more,
that third one stopped right on the horizon.
this one here.
Over
The one
This
the
one
third
here.
little baby one.
How about it?
It stopped right on the line.
That's okay. Let's cross over.
Yeah.
She's my high school teacher, by the way.
But you saw it. Okay, so
Not anymore, I quit.
so here's the thing, okay? You saw it.
Retired,
You
yeah.
saw it. Why didn't you fix it?
Well, I did. I pointed
Okay.
for you.
But that's my point. You see, that's my point. It's like, so all the times I go around and I look at the compositions and I say, yeah, but I was gonna make it like this, but I know I have to bring it down, but I left it here. And I'm like, why? Like, you know that. Like, why are you not going full in? You see?
I don't know if that happens to everybody, but that happens to me all the time. I'll look at something on my painting and I'll say, I'm not really sure about that, but I leave it. That's like
You gotta walk away and come back and then you'll
instinctually, I
see.
mean, somebody will say, well, what do you think about my painting here? And the person will see it and I'm like, I thought about that, but I didn't change it.
Who are you
So-
asking? Who are you asking?
Who am I asking? No, but yes, seriously.
Other artists, basically.
Exactly.
You rely on your feeling. If there's something that is not
Right.
that feels off, like any instant, like anything you would do in life,
Yeah.
you meet someone, you're like, there's something off about you, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of like chicken, you know, I'm
Right.
thinking, oh, well, the other part is okay, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's fear. Fear definitely.
But your painting is only as strong as its weakest part.
Yeah, and most of the times the weakest part is the composition. And I've seen a lot of really well-rendered paintings and the composition is horrible. you won't stay there. I've seen paintings instead that are not as well rendered. You can see that they don't have the manipulation of the medium fully intact, but the composition is solid. That will keep me in there. I'm not, the engagement is good.
I have a question about your pieces that you don't put a base in.
And then we're gonna do that, exactly,
okay,
that was
you're coming
gonna,
up.
yeah. Those are tricky, because I do a lot of those also. Those get really complicated.
I mean, you're staying in the canvas and you have a lot of circular movement there.
But it's all circular, remember that some of it, you've got a big piece of
right.
cube.
Yeah, but that's what I was
Yeah,
getting at, because
yeah.
when you don't have that, then how do you balance the circular? Do you like throw some geometric lines in there somewhere, or is it all circular?
I'm
All
gonna give
organic.
you, I'll do some of that in my demo also, I'll give you a demo, you'll see it also.
And I also have a question on, so, every time you have a vase and you want to bring your composition, you want to bring the eye around, you're not going to have a hanging piece of floral coming down possibly. Can you manipulate that with your background?
Mhm.
Like say we have a solid blue background, but right there we have the shadow of maybe, something, a leaf or something here coming there. Can you, is that strong or is that kind of a weak way to?
No, your mark making. Any mark that you make that reinforces the composition. Remember, it doesn't have to be figurative, it doesn't have to be something that we relate to as a natural object. Any mark that you leave on the canvas has its validity. So choose wisely when you put it down on your canvas. Make sure that it's part of the structure about, it could be, like you said, a shadow. It could be even something as simple, and I learned this from de Kooning. De Kooning would have these massive paintings and he'd do these figures. And if, for example, there was an arm, the arm would come right off the page. Like, take you right off the page. And I'm like, that's ballsy. Because you know that you're looking at that and it's a figure. But what does he do? Like the arm will literally go as far as here, and he's going to bring it all the way back down at the bottom of the canvas, and you see this part show up. You see what I'm saying? Like he's not messing around. And then to reinforce that, you'll take a big brush stroke and you'll go like this off the canvas, bring it right back here again. So oh man, he's messing with my head. You see that? I mean, that's brilliant. And that's why I look at that and I'm like, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's the mark that you're making that's more important than the representation of what you want it to look like. So in this case, yeah, we're dealing with flowers because we all love flowers. Some of us want to look like flowers. And so here, I'm starting you off with something for the workshop that is, we're going to work with that. You can work it structured or non-structured. But the structure, you still have to take this into account. And until you do at least 1,000 of these, you're not going to get it. Like, I'm not kidding you. This is why I continue to do these all the time. It's because I'm always like, let's go back. And then something that I'm used to, I say, let me push the boundaries. Where can I go with this? And then the real test for me is like I see it, and then how many other people see it. Like, how does it engage the viewer? And I've seen those done also in my studio where they'll just be hanging there, and people walk into my studio and they'll go straight to one and not to the other. And I look at the one, I'm not interested in the one that they went to, I'm interested in the one that they did not look at. I'm like, what's going on with that painting that it didn't work? Like, why isn't there the connection? You see, that's how you learn. That's how you learn. Yeah. Where I begin, impetus. Sometimes I'll put a nice big flower here. I'll choose something that kind of has a bit of roundness. Okay. But I'm already starting to cover this area over here. I'm already starting, this kind of like a diagonal happening. And then normally I'll just add maybe a little flower here, another one. And this flower is going to start looking this way. So the direction of the flower, where it's pointed, you will have another flower coming this way. So I'm doing this and this. Okay? Maybe I'll put a swoosh of paint over here, which would be kind of like a leaf, so really strengthening the direction. Then I'll have maybe something else here. A leaf. another leaf. Basic, right? I'm just starting off with something that is maybe another leaf going this way. Then I'll have maybe another flower here. And this flower, this is where it can get tricky. Sometimes I have the flower looking on the inside. Peony, I love peonies because of the shapes. Nice and round. This is open space. With this open space, I'll probably put a leaf. Make sure that we go back in this way. And 1, 2, I'll put usually like three supporting characters. Another peony here. Okay. Supporting character, main characters, supporting characters are around here. And sometimes I have a little something hanging this way. Some vines, break all of that down here. Another leaf here, another leaf here. It can overlap also, remember? Overlapping is another important element. Right? So I've got everything pretty well structured. And it almost forms a diamond. Just this part here, I'll carry me into here. I'll angle this way. If I were to angle it straight this way, I'm breaking the flow. Instead of forcing the flow, this is going to carry me here. This will carry me here. This will take me up here. I'm missing a flower here. You can tell. And this, all I'm doing is I'm just putting in shapes to direct my eye. I'm not concerned about the type of flower. I'm not concerned about. They're just shapes.
Do you actually start in one corner and actually just keep your
Purposely,
eye?
because I've noticed that in the past when I start this in the center, it's a lot of work to have to move it.
Okay.
You're just starting in the center, so it's kind of like this sort of, what ends up happening is I start doing this sort of static formation. Good luck getting out of that. That's like a vortex, it just takes you in. So,
I think I have a picture of, that's what it is.
yeah, there's all.
That's what it is,
Yeah,
right?
no, there you go. There's some thank you. There you go. So are you coming in this way? You're coming in this way, and then letting you back up again. This negative space is meant to push the composition in. Okay?
I have
You can pass this
I
around.
apologize because this is a pea brain question. That doesn't really have anything to do with composition. But would you just put a leaf next to a peony that might not be a peony leaf?
Yeah, I never really paint the peony. I never really paint.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
they're just shapes. It's not by chance that this structure actually exists in nature. It's not by chance. It really is. It's something that we need to look at. Another part of the composition that we have to look at is the shapes. Okay, and variation of shapes. So what makes for an interesting composition is that, remember I spoke about the main characters and the supporting characters in the background, okay? So usually the main characters, they're bigger shapes. Those are the ones that are your focal point. And then to support them, you come in with smaller shapes. I'm not talking flowers, remember, I'm saying shapes. They are going to be flowers, but they're just shapes, all right? Like, remove the form. Remove the form, it's just a shape. And then you have the supporting shapes. And those supporting shapes, like the ones in the back, which are the background, normally it's foliage, branches, okay? And those direct your eye. You use those as direction. They're literally arrows that say, this way stupid, this way stupid, this way stupid. Okay, break it down to the most common part, the common denominator. Color, okay? This is another design element that's very important in your composition. To your point, what we were talking about, if you have a very muted palette, okay, and the muted palette tends to, you've already got that set and it takes your eye all across, great, you know? Suddenly you're like, I want to introduce something that's a color, fine. Make sure that whatever you put in there, don't just leave it there, make it go across your page, and back here again. Always keep that formation going. This is all you're doing all the time. You're just making sure wherever they come in, they stay within there. You only put one piece of color, it's going to look awkward on a muted palette. Questions are going to come up, what's going on, unless it's intentional. You really want to turn somebody like off their rocker. But in order to keep the composition structure, just keep your eye going all the time. If it goes off the page, bring it back over here. If it goes off the page here, bring it back over here. Off the page, bring it back, even if it's higher up, bring it back this way. Okay? Now the problem is you're going to start doing this, all right? You're going to start to twirl. Well, as soon as you go this way, just put an element in here that's going to stop it. It's going to stop it, and then introduce another element that's going to bring it back. You know, these are branches. You can just put a branch right here, or you can put a vine that's hanging, or a small leaf that's hanging this way. It's going to stop the momentum, and then it's going to come, make sure there's something else that picks it up and makes it go this way. Same thing on this side. Yeah? Okay? So the geometry, the shape, the variation, geometry, those are also all important elements. Geometry actually comes in the configuration of the 1/3, 2/3, or rectangles. You may actually have a vase, which is a geometric shape, which is a natural. Remember, that vase is not a vase. If I would tell you what shape is it, it's a rectangle. The vase is a rectangle. Or sometimes it's a cylinder. Okay, it's just a shape. And what is that shape doing within my composition? Is it taking too much space, too much importance? Is it dominating the flowers? And I think somebody said, well, if we were to put something softer in front of it, yeah, if that works, that's what you go with. The most important part is the attention to the composition, because a weak composition, you're going to have a weak painting. Like, if you're an excellent draftsman, top of the world, the best draftsman ever, and your composition is weak, that's not going to hold. Nobody's going to look at that. I've seen that happen over and over again. It's like amazing artists, and I could see it. It's like, you shot the composition, man, too bad, all those hours. And then you'll see people who will do something like in 5 minutes, and it looks absolutely awesome. This composition is solid.
Yeah,
there's
you
no
have them
vase.
coming,
There's no
right, you
vase.
have them coming down almost to the bottom of the canvas, almost.
If you look at the bottom of this vase, okay, first of all,
What are you talking about,
well, I have flowers. I have flowers that are sort of suspended in midair.
Okay.
Okay,
But there's
and
just a
then-
little bit
Color.
Just a little bit of mix.
Yeah, so what is it? There's no vase. There's no vase. What I do is I'll take a trowel and I'll put the paint on and I'll just scrape it across so it implies a vase. But all it is, it's a shape. You see, this is, I'm going back to that. It's a shape that I put in there. So why does that hold your attention? Think about it. Why would that hold your attention? What's going on in there? There's no vase. There's no background. There's no tabletop. And yet you
The
look
surrounding color, because I noticed that too, that you take, a lot of them you'll take the same, you just totally stay inside the
I
paint.
stay
There's no
inside.
way to go out of the paint because of that, is that right?
That's right. So when you get to the stems, you see when I paint the painting where the stems are suspended and there's no vase and there's no tabletop, I'm running the risk that the eye is just going to come right off. But what I do is I introduce these small little flowers, or not flowers,
Angles.
right, foliage, that in a very subtle way, just pushes you back up again. Before you know it, you're back up there again.
I've heard someone describe this before as the loud conversation and the quiet conversation of the.
Oh, that's good.
But it's like
Yeah.
you've got your main character energy that draws you in from across the room, and then that quiet conversation is sort of guiding that person and
Right.
taking them on a tour. So I think what I hear you describing is like deciding on your main character or your story first, and then using those sub-characters or those supporting actors.
That's
to
exactly
just
it.
Take them on a tour of the things they want to show.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go further. I'm gonna go further with that. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
There is an analogy that I also bring in besides the film production is like you're walking into a party, okay? Just like we're all here, this is a big party, right? So it's a cocktail party, we're all standing around, and there's gonna be the one in the room that's taking all the attention. And there's gonna be the one that are basically going to be supporting the attention because they're forcing that person to be able to talk with the myriad of questions that they're asking. And there's the ones that really don't give a crap and they're just in their own corner. But they have to be part of that room. They have to be. And you'll notice that even how people stand within a room, some people will be structured in such a way so that they are literally part of the focus of the room. Other people don't want that kind of attention. They're there just to kind of like lend support to the party, and they're off to the side. So when I'm doing these like square variations, I forget, I don't know where the people went, but when I'm doing those square variations, that's exactly what's going on in my mind. And when I point the peony in this direction, I bring in somebody else to talk to the peony. And then there's somebody else that interferes in here, like a cocktail party. Somebody's always there standing with a drink, not knowing what to say. I need that person in there. I need the person that's kind of quiet, that doesn't know what to say, but it's like, is the perfect stump that's gonna bring me down to the next person where there's something happening. So that's another analogy that you can use, like, okay, and you're bringing in all these people into the room and there's a conversation going. Now, if you have too many of these big boisterous flowers having a conversation with, and they're gargantuan and they're colorful and there's no muted color, man, you want to get out of that room. You want to stay in there. The same way if you go into a room and it's dark and it's heavy and the conversation's heavy, you don't want to stay in there either. All right? So that's all part of the balance that you want to do with your painting. So it's a different approach. Like I'm taking you out of the actual technique and I'm bringing you into the psychology. But more than 90% of painting is psychology. It really is. I've noticed that it's like what you bring to the painting and how you address it. If you can relate that to your day-to-day existence, there's a lot of material that you can go get from there. The rest is just learning the technique. That's all it is. And scientists, Russian scientists have taught monkeys how to paint. So